Welcome to Creative Expedition, April 2021. Today we're talking about creative dismantling. And I'm Holly May, this is LionSong process. And the purpose of LionSong is to play around in the space where we can use the arts as a pathway for healing, for reconnecting to our highest source selves, however we experience that subjectively. And I'm specifically interested in ascension, so this is all going to be about that a little bit. And what that means, if you're not familiar with that term or comfortable with that term, it's another way of thinking about spiritual awakening. It's also another way of thinking about healing and just kind of becoming who we are, returning ourselves to be back in relationship with all parts and pieces. So our biggest, most unified, healed aspect of our consciousness, all the way out to all our little fragments and pieces, uniting all of these together is one way of thinking about ascension. And ascension is also partly the little self sprouting and growing up towards big self. And it's also the big self kind of stepping down into the little acorn. So it's a meeting somewhere in the middle. So we're going to play a little bit with creative dismantling today. There's a lot of dismantling going on in the world, in our own inner psyches, and also externally, as we may have observed. Things falling apart, things shifting around. And some of those things were like, oh, thank God. I really don't want that structure there anymore. And then there's other stuffs. There's other stuffs that kind of fall apart and disappear, and maybe we weren't really ready for it or whatever. But no matter how we look at it, there's a dismantling process going on all the time. So just a quick reflection on the idea of ego, as I mean it in this context. There's nothing wrong with having a self. There's nothing wrong with being different or having a sense that, we have these specific qualities or an awareness of who we are in a very specific sense, what type of being we are, what type of nature we are. That's all great. And it's fine to notice difference and to honor it and celebrate it and to have boundaries and protect ourselves against things. All of that is good. And there's nothing inorganic about that, in my opinion. So I'm not talking about decimating or destroying the right to be separate or different or have your own take on things. But it's a common misunderstanding because sometimes cults and religions and other stuff like that make us feel bad about having a separate self or a different point of view or the part of us that doesn't go with the program or whatever. So we're not talking about that, but I'm talking specifically about this mechanism of consciousness, which is more like a learned behavior on planet Earth at this time, which is this tendency to split the world into things that are desirable, that we should be and we want to go after, and we should all try hard to be like that. And then on the other side, there's this accumulation of things that we're not supposed to be, the shadow, the unwanted, avoided things. The problem is not polarity, the fact that life goes through rhythms and cycles, but more like the cognitive move of saying that one polarity is good and the other one is bad. And the problem of that kind of duality is it just sets us up for so many problems, sources of suffering, because we're chasing after this and we're trying to push away that. But we're, of course, not really remembering or seeing or experiencing that these things are connected and they'll always be related to each other. And you can't really throw out any aspects of consciousness. just not really how it works. So that's the kind of ego quality that I want to play with, collapsing, dismantling, and just kind of retrieving our own consciousness from those projections, whether it's a shadow projection of like putting a lot of energy into avoiding something or putting a lot of energy into chasing after something. You know, that's more of the desire. Addictive ego will desire chasing something. So that's what we're playing with collapsing. And just to clarify, I'm not talking about self-destruction or decimating your point of view or doing anything with a violent or destructive intention. Just collapsing the cognitive split. Okay, so we're going to start off just going right into some physical stuff. So normally this is the time where we're kind of calling in shielding and presence of protective forces and summoning our intentions and clarifying what energies we don't want to be co-creating with right now in this moment. And we're going to do all that, but just do it with a little more of a physicalized approach. So I invite you, first of all, to just take a moment to connect in with the physical body, which is, as always, where life is happening, where your life is taking place, is in your physical body. So connecting in there, just anchoring into that location, into your physicality. Take some breaths if that's feeling good and available to you. Take some deep breaths, kind of, you know, do whatever feels good to you for settling into the physical channel. Okay, I invite you to go ahead and find, we're going to be playing a little bit today with the physical space that we're in, the literal physical space, and the way that our energies interact with that space. So as a starting point, please find what to you is the center of your available space for moving around in right now. Whatever you would call the center of it. And I want you to imagine that right here in this center place, wherever your body is now, that you look down and you see that there's kind of like a circle that you're standing within. That's basically like as big as a large hula hoop. And that's like the bottom of your column. So it's a circle down there. And you're standing inside this circle. And now you can imagine that that is the bottom of a column. So there's a column projected upwards from that circle down there that goes all the way up to your ceiling. And this column is a space of neutral, 0 point energy. For those of you who do the 12D shielding practice, it's that, essentially. You can associate it with that. That within this column, it's a column of energy, of light, of plasma, of substance, of a very high, fine, and pure quality, sort of what might be at the center of a star or a sun, this sort of liquid, warm, brilliant, radiant. It's got a lot of energy in it. It's a column of maybe like star plasma, this type of energy. So a little bit thick and has a lot in it. And just imagine that your body is inside this column of this energy. And this is your, I invite you to play with this. This is your source spirit energy. Or whatever step down level of that you can experience right now. It's the closest to source. And as you are inside this column, everything within you feels bathed and irradiated with light, saturated and soaked with this starry plasma light, liquid light from a higher dimension, whatever's available to you today. And of course, you can go as high as you want, all the way straight into source, or, but whatever's the right amount for you today. And I want you to associate this center of the room where you're standing and this pillar that has a hula hoop size around you, all the way up to your ceiling, from your floor to your ceiling, right here in this column. It's almost like a waterfall of energy, or like a downpouring of energy. If you stand here in the room, then you're in the stream of this energy just soaking you, washing over you, cleansing you out. And while you're here, maybe you already have some things you want to let go of, or let this warm, wonderful pillar of source plasma that loves you, it really likes you, it's yours, it's your friend. This energy can wash away things, bring you to rest and balance, and just feel good for your body. For all the nested layers and levels of you inside this pillar. And now I want you to go ahead and sense how this pillar has so much energy, so much radiance, so much momentum, so much of this kind of starry energy in it, that the energy is sort of radiating out, resonating out into your room, rippling out through the field of your room space. So you're sending out these waves of energy through the electromagnetic field, through the space, through space-time, physicality, whatever, however you like to think of what's around you, you're sending these waves out from this pillar. And those waves are hitting the corners of your room. And what I want you to do now is you are going to go over to each corner of the space that you're in. And you're going to touch base with that corner. Or with that wall, let's say that side. So I'm going to go over here. So I'm physically touching the limit of my space. And as you physically touch the limit of your space, so you have your physical body having that sensation, imagine and intend that you are sealing this wall with that same plasma energy or source or God or whatever your highest, most reliable, loving, wonderful energy is today. You're going to seal off this whole wall. And go ahead and do this in all 4 corners. When I say corner, I mean wall, okay? So go to the other limit of your space on this side. If it's helpful, you can imagine that the sort of plasma from this center pillar waterfall, you know, comes out of your palms, so that as you touch this physical limitation of your space, there's like a whoosh of energy that you're kind of soaking and protecting your space. Doing the front now. So we're working with these planes. I'm going to drop down now and do the bottom, the floor plane. So it's like a cube, and I'm getting down to the bottom. Again, setting the intention that the bottom of my space is sealed off with this loving, starry plasma, higher energy. The highest possible, friendliest, most loving energy and frequency. And don't forget your ceiling. So you may not be able to touch it. You probably can't touch your own ceiling. I can't. Anyway, so reaching up, imagining, sending, projecting that energy up to your ceiling and sealing it off. And then you can come back to that center pillar, placing yourself back in that middle where everything is really concentrated. Remembering that there are these ripples radiating out, and sensing yourself now inside a cube, a protected, sealed cube, a container, where the walls, the boundaries, the limits are made of this same friendly, 0 point, unified plasma, starry sun, star, rainbow, whatever it is for you. That energy, so feeling yourself safely secured. And just take a couple of breaths here in your center point, your own 0 point within this space. And understand that when you're breathing in, you're getting even more freshness and plasma and energy directly from source, coming in on that in-breath from the unity aspects of you. And when you're breathing out, if you like, perhaps you are releasing some burdens or transiting some things out of your space, out of your body, out of your energy field that you don't need to be holding on to right now. allowing this back and forth energy exchange, filling you with source and then releasing back to source. Anything that you're done with and that you think maybe belongs with source instead of with you. All right, so we will come back to this. So just store it in the back of your something, your head for now. And we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of writing.